Hi viewers, welcome to our YouTube channel, Sci-Fi FiFuturePulse. Prince Zorvan of the Syrian hegemony was bored. His human classmate, a girl named Alara, was giving a presentation on the Sol system's early space programs. He leaned back in his anti-gravity chair, letting out a derisive snort. The other alien students in the prestigious Galactic Academy tittered. Alara paused, her eyes flicking towards him. Zorvan smirked, his four-fingered hand covering a yawn. These primitives were so amusing with their tin can rockets and their desperate first steps. They had stumbled into a galaxy teeming with wonders they could not comprehend. He found her earnest passion, her detailed charts about Voyager and the Apollo missions, utterly pathetic. Thought. It was like watching an insect try to build a starship. When she finished, the class was silent. Zorvan made sure his voice carried. He spoke in Galactic Standard, his tone dripping with condescending amusement. He said it was adorable how they celebrated failure, how they fired their own kind into the void in pressurized cans. He mocked their fragile biology, their short lifespans, and their primitive technology. The other students laughed with him. It was the done thing. To side with a prince of a major power was wise. Alara simply gathered her data pads. She did not cry or argue. She just looked at him. It was not a look of hurt. It was something else, a quiet, unnerving focus that made his amusement flicker for just a moment. Then she walked back to her seat and he dismissed the strange feeling. Minutes later, the final bell chimed and the students filed out, ready for the recreational period. Zorvan forgot the incident immediately. He had more important things to do, like decide which of the 4 moons of Cygnus 7 to visit for the weekend. He did not notice Alara walking not towards the recreation domes, but towards the restricted administrative wing. He did not see the small, unassuming communicator she pulled from her pocket. And he certainly did not feel the first faint tremor of a shift in the galaxy's power dynamics. Zorvan was reclining in the royal suite of his personal star yacht when the first official notification arrived. It was a curt, sterile message from the Galactic Academy's administration. His student visa and diplomatic credentials had been suspended pending a full review. He laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. A review? On what grounds? He instructed his personal AI to file a formal protest. The AI was silent for a moment before responding that his authority to issue such commands had been temporarily revoked. Zorvan sat up straight, a cold dread replacing the warm satisfaction of his earlier mockery. Moments later, the communication channels to his home world, Sirius Prime, went dead. Not static, not interference, but a complete, intentional severance. His private, military-grade, quantum-entangled link simply stopped working. It was impossible. That link was protected by the hegemony's finest minds. Before the panic could fully set in, his viewport shimmered. The peaceful field of stars outside his ship was suddenly filled with vessels. They were not the sleek, elegant ships of the Syrian fleet. They were blocky, angular, and utilitarian. They were covered in sensor arrays and weapon emplacements that his ship's computer could not even identify. They were human ships. They hung there in silence, a wall of gray metal that blocked out the light of distant suns. A single clear message was then broadcast on an open, unencrypted channel. It was a video feed. On it was Alara, his human classmate. Was no longer wearing the simple student uniform. She was dressed in a crisp, dark uniform with insignia he did not recognize. Her expression was the same focused one from the classroom. She looked directly into the camera, and her voice was calm and even. She said his full name, his title, and his world of origin without a single error in the complex pronunciation. Then she thanked him for his concern for humanity's fragile biology and primitive technology. Illyra's image on the view screen did not waver. She explained that his comments, while insulting, were not unusual. They were, in fact, precisely the kind of data point her people had been patiently collecting for decades. She spoke of humanity's long night, the silent centuries they spent watching, listening, and building. While the elder races of the galaxy squabbled over trade routes and political influence, humanity had been pursuing a different goal. They had not just been exploring space. They had been exploring the very fabric of it. Zorvan's yacht trembled as a new energy signature flared from the lead human vessel. It was a gravity well projector, she explained. a device that could create a localized singularity, effectively pinning a ship or even a planet in place. It was a technology the Syrians, for all their boasts, had only theorized about. She told him that the Galactic Academy was a perfect observation post. It allowed young humans to interact with the young of other species, would learn their weaknesses, their strengths, their prejudices. Zorvan's public mockery was a simple data point that confirmed a significant strategic weakness in the Syrian psyche, a deep-seated arrogance that led them to underestimate any species that did not conform to their aesthetic or technological standards. This was not an act of war, she clarified. This was an act of quarantine. The Syrian hegemony, with its destabilizing influence and its casual contempt for younger species, had been classified as a potential threat to galactic stability. The human fleet was there to ensure that its leadership, starting with its prince, understood the new reality. Zorvan's blood ran cold, thought of his father, the proud emperor, and his invincible fleet. He imagined them facing this silent gray armada, armed with weapons that bent space and time. He looked back at Alara. The quiet girl in his class was gone. In her place was an agent of a power he had just begun to comprehend. Back on Sirius Prime, the Emperor received a communication that bypassed every layer of his planetary defenses, appeared on the main screen of his throne room, silencing the court instantly. It showed his son, Zorvan, standing on the bridge of a human warship, looking pale but unharmed. Beside him stood a young human female. The Emperor's military advisors screamed that it was a trick, a hologram. But the ship's energy signature was real, impossibly close to their homeworld. The human woman, Alara, introduced herself. She spoke of the incident in the classroom, not as a cause for war, but as a symptom. She presented a detailed breakdown of Syrian foreign policy over the last 2 centuries, highlighting acts of cultural suppression, economic manipulation, and technological embargoes against dozens of fledgling spacefaring races. These were not presented as accusations, but as facts, cross-referenced and undeniable. She explained that humanity had not interfered because they were not ready. They needed to understand the full scope of the galactic community, to map its politics, its alliances, and its unspoken cruelties. They had watched as the Syrians and other major powers treated the galaxy as their private domain. Now humanity was ready to contribute to galactic order. The technology on display around Sirius Prime was not a threat, but a promise. It was the technology that would be shared, but only with those willing to adhere to a new set of principles. Principles of mutual respect and non-interference. The Syrian court was in uproar. Some called for an immediate attack. But the sensor readings of the human fleet were terrifyingly clear. Every weapon the Syrians aimed at the human ships simply ceased to function. Their targeting systems went blind, their engines powered down. It was not a battle, it was a demonstration. The Emperor, for the first time in his long life, was silent. He was looking not at the ships, but at his son's face. Zorvan was not a hostage. He looked like a student,